Here we are with Mughilan.
Hi.
So let's hear from him and how the journey has come from a small engineering project to a good company, and we'll talk about design aspects of design decisions what he's made along the way, which has helped him like be here and now and going forward.
Yeah, perfect. So, first of all, thank you for giving this opportunity to talk about my journey so far. Right? I think it's been a roller coaster ride, to be honest. But to keep it short, we basically built a drone company from scratch, from a garage, from an engineering college, all the way to about we're about 40-50 people right now, based out of Koramangala. We build drone software predominantly. What we along the way, to keep it specific to this particular section, we did considerable amount of design work per se, not only earlier with respect to drones and now with respect to software that controls drones per se, right? So there is significant amount of work and significant amount of I think activity and thought process which has gone into this. I think one of the reasons of our success has been extremely thoughtful about design aspects of things, right? Right from the way how a user interacts with our software, all the way up to just how efficient the results of is and how interpretable it is for our customers. And so design goes in different ways. I think it's still students of design is what I would say.
That's so interesting. So I can see that you're working in all kinds of verticals, right from how the app, how the user interacts with the app, how your drone operators interact with the app, and how that whatever information is collected and how that information is shown to the users, and what kind of information would be relevant and useful for the users to interpret and get more better decisions for their company. I think that is where your like entire work and your decision making goes.
Yeah, so I think one of the key things here, Shreya, is the fact that drones are a very new sector, right?
Yes.
So for the longest of times, what has happened is people were always assuming that okay, if you want to fly a drone, you might need to have an aerospace degree, right? Very similar to what has happened with satellites, right? So people, really thought that okay, if I want to be an astronaut, I first need to be an aerospace engineer,
Yes.
right? And then they become a master's in aerospace, then become PhD and whatever, right? So it's very similar to what happened with drone pilots as well, right? For about close to about 100 years, maybe 50 years plus, what has happened is the fact that most of us flying drones or being drone pilots were aerospace engineers to begin with, right? And then they understood the aerodynamics of it, they understood control systems of it, and then they hence were able to do aircraft piloting or drone piloting forever, right? So now, particularly over the last decade or so, less than a decade even, that people have started to realize that okay, these devices are not so complex anymore, right? Can you and me, as normal people, can we start flying drones for some of our purposes, right? Can we start really benefiting out of drones and drone-based data, or drones for logistics, or any other thing, right? So once you start reducing that level of specialized skill set into something which anyone can do, any one of us can do, right? That's where I think from a drone operator standpoint, or a person who's flying a drone standpoint, right? That's the art of design, to be honest,
Yes,
right?
that
So
is where
So the point is we have to ensure that that something as complex as flying and ensuring safety, ensuring a lot of security, privacy, and whatever not, right, comes so intuitively and so intrinsically to a user who is not an aerospace engineer, right? And I think that's more or less the challenge that we were faced with earlier, and hopefully we are trying to address that problem, right? Through better and better thought process on how individuals such as ourselves can become drone operators and possibly drone pilots who are as skilled or even better skilled than the people 50 years ago were flying drones, right? So that's just one aspect of things, right? So the second aspect, right, is the fact that since drone data itself is new,
yes,
right? So what happens is once you start getting these images and maps and whatever not, these are things which our customers have never seen before. Right? It's the first time they're actually looking at a drone and they're like, okay, what can we do with it? What can we do with it? Can we make decisions out of it? Is there a report? As a conventional way, they basically have some sort of PDF document coming their way, right? But now if you go and show them, okay, you don't need a PDF, you need something which you can interact with your phone or an iPad or a computer, right? That's new to them,
yes,
right? And again, they are not particularly engineers per se, right? They are people who make decisions for managing work sites at scale, right? They don't have time to interact with or do engineering on the data, right? They are looking for something which are insightful, which are extremely quick, right? And it's also new to them, right? So that amount of how can you grab somebody's attention and given the right amount of information, right, is another element of this extremely good design, right? So in all cases they're not. What we have learned is we might have to keep the user in front and also think like the user to figure out what is good for him and what is convenient for him, right? So and that's the hard part. I think that's where that's where most of our time and most of my people's time, the great people, the good people who work with us, right? They spend quite a bit of time thinking this way, right? So yeah.
So what amount of user research and interviews and interaction with them? I'm sure all of these people are MNC companies and they are not in a position to give you time to or share what their life is, what their decision making, what their day involves. Nothing. They wouldn't have given you that much leverage, but they expect you to give the same results that they know what they need, and they give you the work.
Yeah, I guess that's the level of empathy I think we need to have as individuals. So the point is, what is important is no one knows what is good for them, right? At some level, right? So the challenge really becomes that WhatsApp never came before. People never asked for a WhatsApp, right?
Yes.
Or nobody asked for an iPhone, right? So nobody at some level, it's about really understanding them as people, understanding how much attention span they have, and actually as people say, think from other people's shoes, right? So it's very, very important, and it's a skill. It's not easy to come by because we all are built in an environment where we are told over our life to basically think for ourselves, etc., etc. We are mostly having individual expression, but very rarely have we thought about how to have this empathy to think from the other person's shoes, right? So that has never been inculcated throughout our education. So that's the part that's hard. So that's why people find it difficult. But I think if you go, I really think that if you really try, right, to put yourself in their shoes, right, I think it's possible for us to learn how they are, what their user behavior is, and user research is, and whatever. right? And that will also happen if you, like you rightly mentioned, right, when you talk to more people, right? But you talk to them on an intention of learning about them, so that you can behave like them.
Yes.
Right?
Instead of offering, this is
Yeah.
what I give, this is what
Correct.
I. Okay.
Yeah. So instead of promoting your design or promoting your work, right? It's very important to possibly understand them as individuals, right? And once you understand them as individuals, and once you understand, and then you start behaving that way, right, like actors, right? Then it's quite easy to basically design for them, right? So yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Great.
Yes. So, like, I know that you use a lot of thinking tools.
Hmm.
I want to know from, like, we learn as designers, we've learned this is the thinking tool and all, and we've applied it to our projects. But then you are applying it day in and day out on your everyday work and like company major decisions and all. So as a new age entrepreneur and like whatever it is, how do you find yourself like navigating through these thinking tools, and like how do you compare yourself with other like previous entrepreneurs or like that kind of generation and yours?
No, I think, see, um, so from an entrepreneurship standpoint, right? So different people have their styles and things, right? So different people have ways of leading and taking decisions, right? So so I'll tell you what has worked for me, right? So, or what I try to seek, right? So from a thinking standpoint, I always try and think via principles, right? So what happens is, usually I find myself whenever I'm stuck or whenever I'm not stuck, right? It's always important to find, say, a set of 3 or 4 or 5 principles, right? And then you derive almost all your decisions basis those principles, right? So, for example, growth is very important, right? Growth as individuals is very important, right? Not only in terms of career, in terms of career capital, holistic growth, intellectual ability, emotional ability, right? Can be in all facets of life, right? So if individual growth is very important for the company, so that individual growth is very important. So what kind of decisions you're supposed to take, right? So from a thinking tool standpoint, okay, you think, okay, individual growth is important, the principle is important, which basically means what? So you have to encourage people to do more, and if you are not able to offer growth, right, to the individual, then you should let go of the individual, right? So the point is the fact that, okay, if regardless of whether he is growing or not, if you are not able to give him growth, right, and he's not growing over years, right, it's very important for you to save time of that individual and make him, possibly exit him, and he can find some other better work somewhere else, right? But that's a direct, relationship with respect to growth of the individual, of the principle of growth, right? So the decision of letting go or hiring someone or letting go of someone Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. So the reason I'm trying to say is, you're right. So the challenge when it becomes leaders, people think, okay, you're right, the aura of thing, right? But that aura comes also because of that person being able to solve problems, right? Or some amount of things, but aura doesn't say that always, right? So what really people look for is internally is not really you know some level of superhero kind of a behavior, right? They look for some element of trust.
Yes, and that trust comes from predictability.
Correct. So the trust comes when you trust the person, when you know that if you tell ABC, that person will have a DEF response. Right? So as long as that kind of builds over a period of time, then they feel associated with the person, or they trust the person for that particular thing. Right? And once that builds up, then they know that they can spend some time with you. It can be from a customer standpoint, it can be from from a team standpoint, it can be from anybody's standpoint, right? But if you are this person who act erratically, right, or you don't have any particular pattern for your behavior, then the challenge really becomes that people might not start trusting you. Right? They might find that you're smart, you're superior, you might do whatever, but that doesn't build teams or companies. Yeah, teams and companies, right? You can so what is important for an organization is how trustworthy the organization is and how clear it is on every element of things. Right?
So what I can see is, while talking to you, you have built your own design system, like how you operate, through a lot of principles which you have kept as ideals, and then you have a vision, and then that translates into principles, and that translates into a system, and wherein that is how you operate on a very everyday basis, and you show up like with the same
extremely similar. So the point is vision gives you the direction, but how you go towards the direction is like when you have principled decisions, right? And you be consistent with them, with the decision every single time, right? So that everybody knows that if they in the company, everybody knows that in the team or even for the customer, everybody knows that we will do A, B, C, we will not do D, F. Right?
Yeah, that is one thing to move on that note. I've been an outsider most of the time, but I've just heard and seen your companies, what it's doing on Twitter. I see a lot of things coming on LinkedIn, and you are very particular about how the language is shown and how the videos are shown. And
that's just me being a little bit OCD about it, but
I can see that you've been very particular about everything, even in the small 3-minute or 2 minutes video which is there on your website, and then which is coming out on LinkedIn, Twitter and all. And also I noticed that you're not doing more on this entertainment, like you're not putting out drones for these entertainment industries. So that is where I saw there's a difference in whatever your thought process is and the kind of problems you are solving, and what makes more meaning to you, because that industry also has a lot of money.
Yeah, it does. So the point really becomes, it's also important to figure out what you want to do, right? So what is your core? What are you good at, right? So it's a mix of 2-3 things. It's what are you good at? What do you want to do, right? Is that also what you're good at? Can you build that skill set to go and get there? And brutally, asking yourself why you are doing some things, right? The more time you're asking yourself why you are doing something, and the more times you keep telling no to things which you don't want to do, right? So that you keep a lot of noise away, right?
Yes.
So that way things become a little bit better over a period of time. Yes.
Yeah, so that is what I have observed. Like, I don't know if I asked the right question or not. Why Skylar drones is not like, because I know you guys were the people who start pioneered this whole like building the drone thing. But when I see outside, there's a lot of people who are just like doing this wedding and all other even party, and some people are doing this all sorts of even movies using drones, and even like serials or whatever it's going on. It's become more.
No, I agree. So I mean, there are a lot of people who do a lot of different use cases, right? And that's towards their strength,
Yes.
right? So it's important to know that okay, that's not towards our strength as a company, right? So we are not cinematographers, so we can't. I mean, I personally can't, make good videos, right? And I'm sure that people in my company who also are not passionate about doing some of these things, right? So it's always important to know what you're passionate about, right? And if you're not passionate about something, you should not do it. It's like, I mean, because the point, at least for me as an individual, can be different from other people, right? So if I'm not passionate about something, right, or I don't feel deeply enough about something, right, then I'm definitely not good at the same thing, right? If I'm not good at that same thing, then I will do a mediocre job of the same thing, right? If I'm doing a mediocre job of the same thing, then then why am I even doing it, right? So what is the point of doing a mediocre job, right? And I will definitely fail, and nobody likes to fail, right? And we don't aspire to be the second or third or fourth best, or 10th best in doing something, right? If you are doing something, we should be the best, or we should aspire to be the best. We should try to be the best, otherwise you should not do it.
So is being the best like being perfect?
Not really. Being the best is a journey, right? So essentially, it's not being perfect, right? It's about are you giving the best that you can do, right? Can you deliver the best service or the best software or the best whatever you are doing, right? Can you do compared to everybody else, compared to the world? Are you giving the best shot? Can you become better, right? Can you grow and become somebody or something which people really like and appreciate and whatever, right? If you can't. Perfection is, according to me, not a end point but a journey. It's always a journey, right? So you always trying, and that whatever time you have, you basically try and become better and better and better and better, because that's what you want to do. There's no reason for it, right? You just want to become a better version of yourself. It's like a light anthem. That's all. So you just keep doing whatever you think is in that direction, right? But what happens is, if you can't do that, if you feel that okay, I'm not passionate enough, right, and then hence you're not good enough for something, right, and then you're not growing in any direction, right? Then you feel stuck, and then you don't. Then you start accepting things which are not good, right? And that's not the part which is really motivating, right? So it takes you in a direction which you don't want to go. So that's mostly the thought.
It's a good thought to stop this.